A Cracker Legacy, Subdivide This. A novel by me, Gordon A. Stevens. Acknowledgements. Special thanks go to my wife Barbara for her restraint and never looking over my shoulder while I'm hogging our shared computer. To David Clarke, my longtime friend and frequent employer, for urging me to commit my weird thoughts to paper. To author and turkey hunter extraordinaire Tom Kelly, for proving that even geezers can be wordsmiths. And to the crackers and hunters whose campfire and barroom stories provided fodder. Prologue. On Friday the 13th in August of 2004, Hurricane Charlie pummeled the region of Florida, which is the setting for A Cracker Legacy. Charlie, one of 4 hurricanes to hit the state in a period of about 6 weeks, came ashore near Punta Gorda as a Category 4 storm with 145-mile-per-hour winds. Charlie headed northward along the route of U.S. Highway 17, bringing winds in excess of 100 miles per hour to the heart of the state's cattle and citrus-growing region. Arcadia, Wauchula, Zolfo Springs, Bowling Green, and Fort Meade, some of the towns mentioned in the novel, suffered terrible physical damage and human suffering. Months later, the scars remain in the form of heavily damaged homes and buildings. Charlie and the other hurricanes, Jean, Ivan, and Francis, once again proved Florida's resilience. Contrary to the predictions of economic doom, by the end of 2004, the tourists and winter residents were headed back. Home building was again on the move, and developers were on the prowl, picking up more large tracts of ranch land to meet the never-ending demand for housing. If Florida is resilient, it is only fitting that the state's original industry should share the same quality. Florida's fruit and vegetable growers suffered significant crop losses as a result of hurricane wind and rain. Conversely, the losses suffered by cattlemen were negligible. Some might consider that amazing, since cows are left out in the pastures during hurricanes. Cattle simply turned their backsides to the wind and ride it out just as they would in a summer thunderstorm. Florida's cattle industry was once the backbone of the state's economy, and it remains an important contributor. Cattle have been a part of Florida since the first head were brought here by Spanish explorers in the early 1500s, long before there was a Texas. Throughout Florida, large cattle ranches remain, many of them owned and operated by proud crackers on land that's been in their families for generations. Although economic circumstances have forced some smaller ranchers and citrus growers to sell out to developers, most of the cracker ranchers don't like what's been happening to Florida. They expect their great-grandchildren will be raising cattle on the land 100 years from now. A Cracker Legacy is a work of fiction. The major characters are figments of the author's skewed imagination. The cities, towns, and highways mentioned are real, with the exception of Flatulent Creek, which exists under a more proper name. Many of the situations and incidents involving people and animals are loosely based on real events. Claude Barnhill is a composite of many of the cracker ranchers who inhabit Florida's vast interior, men who resist great economic temptation for one important reason: they love their land. Chapter 1. Claude Barnhill's lifetime in the often scary wilds of Florida meant that he was a man not easily frightened. Yet, on this pleasant and slightly foggy spring morning, Claude had such a grip on the porch post that his hand should have been producing sawdust. In his mind, the wind was coming in waves, alternately shrieking, roaring, and whistling. Thumps, creaks, and groans accompanied the shuddering and rocking of the house. Suddenly, the old oak tree came down with an ear-splitting crash, punctuated by the sounds of splitting wood as the front porch was turned into fractured debris. The reality was, there was no tree, no wind, no sound other than the crows and blue jays coming awake. Damn, I'm tired of this, Claude thought as he snapped back to the present. The flashbacks came infrequently now, but when one hit, he could swear he had been dropped in the wall cloud of the storm. Claude's doctor had told him he was suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome, a condition that would eventually ease but could cause minor episodes for the rest of his life. It had been 7 months since the powerful winds of Hurricane Charlie toppled the grandfather oak tree that stood at the southwest corner of the ranch house. With surgical precision, the tree removed the entire front portion of the porch that wrapped around 2 sides of the house, but it didn't touch the house itself, didn't even crack a window. At the time, Claude was a few steps away in his den, holding a flashlight with his chin as he tried to coax an old portable radio with a weather band back to life.